Everything I've created, Steve, has been created based upon my intuition. Intuition is a profoundly important ingredient. It's one of the great ingredients missing in most small businesses. So it's very, very important to understand what's missing in most of the work written about business is the intuitive genius that's required at the heart of entrepreneurship.
Are you looking for free tools that accelerate your business? Try self-implementing Summit OS, the ultimate business operating system. Summit OS will help you empower your team, execute like hell, and dig a moat around your business. Go to stevepreda.com/tools and download free, simple worksheets that help you grow your business. Alternatively, get matched with a Summit OS guide and take your business straight to the top of the mountain. Good day, dear listeners. So guess who I have here as my guest today? After 5 years, we finally got to the day when I can interview Michael E. Gerber, who is the author of the E-Myth Revisited, E-Myth Mastery, and 35 other best-selling books that have sold over 5 million copies in 30 languages and 150 countries. Michael was the original mastermind behind the concept of the first business operating system back in 1986. And he coined the idea of working on your business rather than in your business, which idea touched at least 100 million entrepreneurs worldwide. So Michael is also currently the founder at age 88, almost 89. He is the founder and CEO of the Michael E. Gerber companies, owning programs including Gerber Works, Radical You, Become the One, and The Dreaming Room most recently. And he owns the rights to 35 E-Myth books. So, Michael, without further ado, welcome to the Management Blueprint podcast.
I'm delighted to be here. Thank you, Steve.
I'm so excited because really I read your book back in the early 2000s. I got immediately smitten. I actually started a side business trying to implement your system without any training from you, which unfortunately was not successful. So I had to close down my side business, but we definitely implemented it in my own business. And I was just very enamored. I also got a dog-eared copy of E-Myth Mastery, which is like a big volume. And I kind of went through all the ideas there. And finally, to have you be a guest is a great honor. And it's a very exciting day.
I'm delighted to be here. Thank you.
So, Michael, I'm going to start with my favorite question, even though you are like a super guest here. But tell me about your personal why and how it influenced your life and how it got you where you are at age 88, almost 89, still going through strong, still being an entrepreneur. So what was that why that you had and have?
Well, I have said it so many times. It's to transform the state of small business worldwide. To transform the state of small business worldwide. I can almost dance to it because that is what I've been working on all these years. And in the heart of that is to transform the state of entrepreneurship worldwide. And in the process of accomplishing each of those, to transform the state of economic development worldwide. Because were I capable of doing the first, in order to do the second, I would absolutely achieve the result, economic development worldwide. And within that resides the spirit of all that. But you know all about that.
Well, I mean, I know as much as you've written down and as much as you told me. I definitely know that part. I don't know what's going on in your mind because you're still being creative. You're still developing programs, which is amazing to me. I like to be like you when I get to your age. It's definitely awesome. So tell me about the beginning. What prompted you to write the E-Myth? That was the original book in 1986, the E-Myth, and then 1995 you came out with the E-Myth Revisited, which was a fable book, the first one potentially in business. So what was this thing that prompted you to create the E-Myth and to start this work on your business movement back in 1986?
Well, I was invited by my brother-in-law. His name is Ace. Ace Remans, he's still alive, he's still my brother-in-law, to come visit one of his clients. Ace had a small advertising agency in Silicon Valley. And his problem was his clients weren't able to convert the leads that Ace was creating for them into sales. So Ace asked me to come visit one of his clients and see what the problem was. I told Ace at the very beginning, I don't know anything about business, Ace. And Ace said, Michael, you know more than you think you do. So just shut up, come visit Bob, and let's see what happens.
Uh-huh.
So I'm fond of let's see what happens, because that's the story of my life. Let's see what happens. So we went to visit Bob, and Ace told us that he's going to take off for an hour and for us to get to know each other. So Bob asked me, what do you know about my business, Michael? And I said, nothing, Bob. And he looked a little discomforted. If you don't know anything about my business, how can you help me? So he essentially then asked me, what do I know about his product? And I said, less than that, Bob. So if you don't know anything about my business, you don't know anything about my product, and on and on and on. You get the point.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, we've got an hour to kill. Let's find out. So I started asking Bob questions. And it became obvious to me as I began to ask Bob questions that while I didn't know anything about his business, Bob didn't either. And it was astonishing to me. Here's a guy in Silicon Valley, started a company with a product that's built upon a software system. He's got salespeople who aren't successfully selling his product. And I was blown away that Bob didn't know anything about his business either. It was astonishing to me. And I asked Bob if he had a selling system. And he said, what do you mean by a selling system? I said, well, if you're asking me that question, Bob, you don't have one. And that's your problem.
Mm-hmm.
You're bringing aboard salespeople with sales experience and knowledge of your technology, don't have a system through which they're all of them engaging your clients. And the absence of that system is the problem.
Mm-hmm.
So Bob asked me, can you create that system? Of course, Bob. So when Ace comes back to pick me up, he said, so what happened? So I said, well, Bob just hired me. He said, hired you to do what? Hired me to create a selling system. I said, how in the hell are you going to do that? You don't know anything about his business. You don't know anything about his. I said, I told you that before we got here, Ace. The reality is, I know more than Bob does.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, Ace, I know more than you do. So I'm going to create the selling system for Bob. And I did. And it worked. It was the way their salespeople now sold what Bob was selling. Suddenly, Bob understood his problem, but not totally, because I discovered then that Bob didn't have a management system either, or a marketing system either. In short, Bob didn't have a methodology through which he operated his company, and it blew my mind. And Bob was only the first of Ace's clients that I did the very same thing with. And each and every single one of them, Steve, had identically the same problem. It blew my mind. It was remarkable to me. And what was also remarkable to me is that Ace didn't have one either. And he didn't let me do it for him. So I finally said, I'm going to go out and do this by myself. So Ace brought a guy in to replace me. The guy's name was Tom Travisano. So Tom watched me for a while do what I did, and he said to me, where are you going, Michael, when you leave here? I said, I'm going to start a company of my own to do what I've been doing here for Ace. And Tom said, I'm going with you. And so we left and created our very first company. It was the Michael Thomas Corporation, MTC,
Uh-huh.
to do exactly what I just shared with you. And we did that for almost 10 years before I wrote my first book. A guy had come to one of my seminars. At the end of the seminar, he said, "How'd you like to write a book?" And I said, "About what?" He said, "What you just said in the seminar." I said, "Sure." He said, "I'm going to go back to Ballinger Books and tell them I've got a guy to write that book they want to get written on small business. And I'll get back to you and let you know what they say." He got back to me, he said, "They want to do it. And I'm going to edit it," he said. So we started to write that book, and I wrote that book in about 3 months. That was the first book. That was the E-Myth.
Yeah.
Why most small businesses don't work and what to do. And that's the beginning of the story.
Yeah. And that was HarperCollins who actually issued it. So it was a major business publisher at the time. They recognized immediately, it seems like, the idea, and they embraced it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So what happened? Because you came out with the E-Myth in 1986. So I'm just counting the years. So you must have been in your early 30s when you had Ace approach you, and you did this management consulting for Bob.
I was 40.
You were 40. Okay, so 1986, that was almost 40 years ago. So if you're 88, you must have written the book at 47, 48, 49, and then 10 years earlier. Yeah, so you were basically
Don't confuse me. Don't confuse me, Steve.
Yeah, okay.
Whatever it was, however it was, here we are
Yeah.
now. Yeah.
No, what I'm curious about, Michael, is the original E-Myth book. This was just a nonfiction book, and then you turned it into the E-Myth Revisited, which is a business fable. And since
Yes.
then, we know, because Lencioni has written a bunch of business fables. I wrote one myself, which is nowhere near yours. But what we know is that business fables are a much better way to communicate ideas. So how did you come up on this idea to rewrite it as a business fable?
When you ask me, how did I come up with the ideas? I hadn't had any business training. I had no business education.
Mhm.
Everything I've written has been written through my intuition and my experience. So as I'm speaking to a small business owner and as I hear what they are attempting to do, I intuitively understood what was missing in the way they were doing it.
Mhm.
So everything I've created, Steve, has been created based upon my intuition. Intuition is a profoundly important ingredient. It's one of the great ingredients missing in most small businesses. So it's very, very important to understand what's missing in most of the work written about business is the intuitive genius that's required
Mhm.
at the heart of entrepreneurship. Great entrepreneurs are intuitive. Everybody else isn't. And what's missing in most work about business, management, leadership, marketing, etc., and so forth, what's missing is that intuitive genius that's crucial to create. You know, it's said in Genesis, born in the image of God, born to create a world fit for God. How does one create intuitively?
Mhm.
How does one develop one's intuition? By generating a passion, a love for the creation. What's missing in almost everything that's written about business, everything that's written about business writes about the mechanics of it. You asked a question about EOS and on and on and on and on and on. They're all about the mechanics of it, the mechanics of management, the mechanics of leadership, the
Mhm.
mechanics of et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It ain't about the mechanics, Steve. It's about the love. It's about the passion. It's about the heart. It's about the soul of a great business, the soul of a great enterprise, the soul of a great leader, the soul of a great manager, and so forth.
I love that. And you write about this in the E-Myth Revisited when you talk to Sarah about the bakery shop. You talk
Yes.
about the love, the passion, the intuition. And yeah, I love this idea of the intuition. John Lennon has a song, Intuition Takes Me There. You think I can't sing it, but it's a wonderful song, and the lyrics are really, it's really great. I recommend you check it out. I'm sure you know it anyway. So yeah, that's great. So the passion, definitely without passion, it's probably impossible to build a great business because it's too hard to do it without the love and passion that you talk about. So what is your favorite concept of the E-Myth books? Is there a favorite concept that you have?
Well, the favorite concept, obviously, is summarized with going to work on your business rather than in your business. And by on your business, I'm talking about way up here,
Mhm.
looking down on your business, the whole of it, the entirety of it, seeing it from that perspective. You're suddenly removed from it to experience it in a completely different way than you do when you're in it, doing it, doing it, doing it, doing it. So that's the soul of what I speak about when I engage anyone who is a owner, operator of a small company, what I call the smallest of the small. I have to pull them out because until I can pull them out, we're so consumed by everything they have to do that they can't be relieved of what they have to do. But once I'm able to pull them out of it, to begin to look down upon it, much like Ray Kroc did in his first McDonald's store, he built his franchise prototype
Mhm.
to get the first one right. In fact, that was in just a little bit ago. The anniversary of the very first McDonald's store was on April 15th. He created his first store.
Mhm.
Now, understand he didn't create the McDonald brothers did. Ray Kroc simply grew it, but he
Mhm.
didn't grow it until he rebuilt it in such a way that it worked beautifully, systemically, perfectly. So then he could open his second one. Huge mistake almost everybody makes is they don't do that.
Yeah, I
So,
love the concept that you talk about, the franchise prototype concept. I think it's a really good way to articulate that you have to build a perfectly working machine before you start replicating it. Because if you have a
yes,
half-baked thing, then you're going to replicate the bad machine, the imperfect machine, and that's the worst chaos. You don't want to do that. You want to do the prototype, which is a really
yes. Well,
interesting one.
I like to say every small business is a franchise.
Mhm.
And so the business format franchise model is absolutely crucial to every single operating business on the planet. If every new company, every startup were to start up as though they were going to franchise it, failure would be completely eradicated. If every single startup were started up like a franchise, it would be immensely transformational.
Yeah, because basically what you want is you don't want to be a slave to your business. You want the business to be operable by anyone else, which means you have to make it a franchise prototype so that this is possible, right? That's what makes it possible. I love this idea. So
But
Michael,
but understand, Steve, it's not so that you don't become a slave to your business. It's so that you transform the state of your business into an operating system that can produce the dream that you have, the great result you intend to produce. And
Mhm.
that's why I've created the Eightfold Path. The Eightfold Path is built upon the eight discrete personalities of a great entrepreneur. And those are linear: the dream, the vision, the purpose, the mission, the job, the practice, the business, the enterprise. So I ask every single business owner, what's your dream? First, the dream. Second, the vision. Third, the purpose. Fourth, the mission, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it starts out with I have a dream, I have a vision, I have a purpose, I have a mission. First, the dream, second, the vision, third, the purpose, fourth, the mission. Based upon what? Every great entrepreneur is a dreamer. Every great entrepreneur then is a thinker. Every great entrepreneur is a storyteller. Every great entrepreneur is a leader. First, a dreamer. Second, a thinker. Third, a storyteller. Fourth, a leader. I have a dream. I have a vision. I have a purpose. I have a mission. You get me? The
Yeah.
job is the designer of the client fulfillment system. The practice is the builder of what I call the three-legged stool, the franchise prototype. Lead generation, lead conversion, client fulfillment, the three-legged stool of
Mhm.
every practice desiring to become a business. So the practice is the business format franchise prototype. The business is up to 7 turnkey practices plus a turnkey management system. The enterprise is up to 7 turnkey businesses plus a turnkey leadership system. A dream, a vision, a purpose, a mission, a job, a practice, a business, an enterprise. The evolution of an enterprise from a company of one to a company of 1,000. And therein resides the platform upon which a great growing company is designed, built, launched, and grown. So you might say it's the evolution of a great growing company. Now, in every single startup, we're started up in exactly the way I just described, a dream, a vision, you follow me, it would profound positive impact upon entrepreneurship, upon small business, upon economic development. If you were to speak that, if you were to teach that, I'm telling you, Steve, it would blow your mind.
It does blow my mind. I think it's a wonderful concept. I'm very passionate about it, and I love listening to you telling me about it. And I have a question. Can I ask you a question about this?
Of course.
So you say that every business should start with a dream, but you also say that it's technicians who start businesses. It's not entrepreneurs.
Of course.
So what happens when a technician starts the business and they want to turn themselves into an entrepreneur? How do they do that?
With a dream, a vision, a purpose, a mission, a job, a practice, a business, an enterprise, in exactly the way I've just described it. So I walk that technician through that process.
Mm-hmm.
And they first have to say, what's your dream? They don't have one.
Mm-hmm.
I want to make a lot of money. That's not a dream. The dream is the great result you're going to produce, not for you, but for them. For whom? The crucial question. So, who are you going to transform? To transform the state of chiropractic, to transform the state of accountancy, to transform this, you follow me.
Mm-hmm.
Until that happens, nothing else is going to happen. So we've got to awaken the entrepreneur within every technician starting a small company. And that's the process through which I do it. And it's struggle. It's a struggle, Steve. You got to stay with the struggle. You don't get beyond the dream until you got a dream. And until you got a dream, it's a waste of time. I want to become my own boss. That's not a dream. I want to make a lot of money. That's not a dream.
That's
The dream's
profound.
about them, not about you. The dream's about it, not about me.
Mm-hmm.
In every great entrepreneur's case, not one of them started what they started to make a lot of money. Not one, not ever.
I love it. I mean, I thought I could explain this much better than most people, but actually, you are explaining it a lot better than I can. And you're kind of connecting the dots for me as well, even though I'm supposed to be doing that. So that is pretty cool. And I never thought about the technician actually not having a dream. I thought the problem was that they couldn't make the dream attractive to people around them so that they also connect to it. They had it, but they could not proselytize it properly. I thought that was the problem. But what you are putting the spotlight on is that they actually don't have it articulated for themselves. So they are not able to generate the passion in order to make it happen. Is this what you're saying, or I'm
Yes, no, you're very accurate. You understand the vast majority of startups are started up to get rid of the boss. They're going to go out and do it on their own. It's going out and doing it on their own. My book, I don't know whether you've ever read it, Making It on Your Own in America, or wherever you happen to live, A Journey Toward Radical Self-Employment. So you understand what they do. And you see them doing it. They've gotten rid of the boss. They become their own boss. And now they're working for a boss, which is the business they created. And they're working for a lunatic. So I've said this again and again and again and again. Very crucial to understand we have to awaken the entrepreneur within them. And it's a tough thing to do. It's not easy to do. Anybody who tells you it is easy to do has never really done it. And that's why I asked the question, so what is an entrepreneur? People answer, well, they're people who start a business. No, that's only a little piece of it. So that's where I came up with the 8 discrete personalities of an entrepreneur.
Mhm.
The dreamer, the thinker, the storyteller, the leader, the designer, the builder, the launcher, the grower. Until we awaken the dreamer, the thinker, the story, et cetera, within the owner of a small company. Until we do that, it's just more of the same. So how do we do that? I walk them through the dreaming room. I have a dream, I have a vision, I have a purpose, I have a mission. And I call it Dreaming Room 1 and Dreaming Room 2. Dreaming Room 1 is to discover their dream, their vision, their purpose, their mission. Dreaming Room 2 is to discover their job, their practice, their business, their enterprise. Dreaming Room 1 creates the platform upon which we're going to design, build, launch, and grow Dreaming Room 2. So it's a process, and it's a magical process. Because as I walk people through that, Steve, just huge stuff happens. I mean, it's just huge. They say, what in the world happened? They find themselves in a completely new way. And
Mhm.
it's extraordinary.
Mm.
By the way, I'm doing a webinar on the 25th this week, introducing people to the Dreaming Room. And then I'm enrolling them, some of them, in the Dreaming Room,
Mhm.
which I start, I believe it's on May 2nd.
Mhm.
Come to the webinar. I'll have Amethyst send you a link to it. And then if you care to, I invite you to join me in the Dreaming Room. I'll do that pro bono. So
Well,
you're not gonna have to spend the $10,000 to do it.
okay. Yeah. I'd
And
love to learn.
when you do it, you're going to have a direct experience of what
Mhm.
I'm talking about. And
Yeah.
once you have that direct experience, Steve, I'll then invite you to become a Dreaming Room leader. And
Okay.
should that occur, it'll be magical.
Well, I'm definitely interested. Friday is going to be tough. I don't know what time is your, but we can talk offline about this. But I'm definitely interested. I want to learn more. And I love the idea of awakening the entrepreneur. I'm afraid some of my clients are still asleep. I have to awaken them. Maybe I'm still asleep. So I have to awaken myself first.
Well, you understand, you're a genius. I've read your stuff. You're a genius on the mechanics of it all.
Hmm.
You write brilliant stuff.
So thank you.
Unfortunately, your brilliant stuff, I say this in the kindest of ways. Your brilliant stuff leads the one I speak to behind.
Hmm.
So the question becomes, so how do I do it in a way that doesn't leave them behind?
Hmm.
Who? The smallest of the small. You're too smart for the
Hmm.
vast majority of them.
Okay.
You're just too damn smart for the majority of them.
Maybe for
And
my own
so
good.
it's how to become stupid.
Anyhow, well, I'm definitely interested and, definitely dive into it. But for the moment, we are still recording this. So I like to ask you a couple of personal questions. Is that okay? Because you're an entrepreneur, you started several businesses, you're currently running the Michael E. Gerber companies. So, as an entrepreneur, what has been your greatest disappointment in business, and how did you bounce back from it?
My greatest disappointment is in myself. My greatest disappointment is the fact that I don't enjoy operating a company.
Hmm.
I don't enjoy the work of it. I enjoy creating. Over the past decade, that's all I've done. We haven't grown our company. I haven't been interested in growing our company. I've been interested in love with the creation of entrepreneurial dedication. So over the past decade, we've published now 24 new books, what I call vertical market books.
Mm-hmm.
The E-Myth chiropractor, the E-Myth accountant, the E-Myth, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And doing that with co-authors. So a chiropractor who's done the E-Myth and had a practice, but had never created a true business of it. And so we've published now these 24 books. I write a chapter on people, they write a chapter on people. I
Mm-hmm.
write a chapter on money, they write a chapter, et cetera, et cetera. My chapters are the same in every one of those books.
Mm-hmm.
Their chapters are vertically centric. So they write a book on chiropractic about people, about money, et cetera, et cetera. There are 199 vertical markets we've identified. So I want you to imagine 199 vertical market E-Myth books. That's the objective. Now, obviously, I'm going on 89. So the question becomes, so Gerber, how are you going to create all those books? With AI.
Mm-hmm.
So the future doesn't require a co-author. AI becomes the co-author.
Mm-hmm.
Because now we've created the perfect model for doing it. We can now create, utilizing artificial intelligence, human intelligence, and business format intelligence to create a completely unique world of vertical market books that speak to this process that I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one component of Michael E. Gerber companies. Because everybody says, yes, but my business is different. You know that. I'm sure you've had that. Yes, Steve, but my business is different.
Of course.
Steve says, yeah, I understand, but the system works no matter what kind of business you're in.
Mm-hmm.
I know Steve is going to say that. Because everything you created is applicable to every kind of business on the planet. Everything I've created is applicable to every kind of business on the planet. We've proven it. Chiropractor, accountancy, on and on and on and on and on. Every single one of them have applied the E-Myth. The E-Myth and the way we've created it in exactly the way we've created it. And it works every single time. So that's one piece of Michael Gerber companies. The second piece you wrote about, Radical U. Radical U is a 5-year school for entrepreneurship. So it's an entrepreneurial development school, 52 weeks a year for 5 years. So I have completed the first 4 years of 52 weeks each year of the content for walking somebody through the process from the very beginning to the very end. That's the second component of Michael E. Gerber Company. So you get my point.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And then you have the dreaming room. That's also part of the Michael Emmet, Michael
Absolutely.
Gerber companies, right? So you got the dreaming room is part of it. So that's amazing. So that takes the image concept to the next level because you verticalize it. You actually put into practice how to awaken the 8 personality of the entrepreneur, and then you train them in a 5-year school. I wonder if it's 52 weeks a year. Why don't you just give them a few weeks off and then maybe the fifth year will write itself.
It's a great question.
Because entrepreneurs need to take at least 8 to 10 weeks of vacation every year. So,
Yes, well, of course.
yeah. Okay.
Take time off.
Yeah. So tell me, Michael, I mean, you've been doing this for, I don't even dare, 60 years probably. How do you keep young? How do you keep passionate? How do you not lose your zest and your love of life? And, what keeps you going?
Well, it's spoken to when I talk about the soul of it. So understand the soul of a creation, this continuous creation. I'd love to create. I love to create. It lives within me. It is my soul. It's the spirit that calls me to the process. And so mechanics die without the spirit, without the soul. So I don't focus on the mechanics. I focus on the creation of it. And that creation of it keeps me, I won't say young because obviously I'm not young, but my spirit is young. As young as it was the very first day I started this. So that's it. And I'm essentially saying when I engage someone in the dreaming room, no matter what their age, it happens to them as well. And as it happens, and it doesn't happen immediately, although it does happen with some of them immediately, as it happens, something miraculous occurs. And they write about that. They speak about that. Something miraculous occurs. And it's something miraculous that touches my soul, my spirit, that keeps my spirit young. Because as I experience that with another, it rejuvenates that within me. And it will do this very same thing with you.
Okay, I need some rejuvenation for sure.
No, you're very young. How old are you?
I'm 58.
Just a kid.
Yeah. You could be my father. You are my father in many ways, actually.
Where are you from?
I'm from Hungary.
And how long have you been in the United States?
13 years.
And why did you come to the United States?
Well, because I had my dreams, my entrepreneurial dreams, and I saw a ceiling to it there. And I thought that I was still, 45. I was still young enough to make a new start and to do it in a world which doesn't have a ceiling. And that's why I came.
Wonderful. And how's that worked out for you?
Touch wood. So far, it's working. It's not perfect,
Wonderful.
as you know. No business is perfect. My business is not perfect either. So it's plenty of work to be done left. So with this, let me ask you the final question, Michael. What do you think is the most important question for an entrepreneur that they should be asking themselves?
Why are you doing this? And what I discover is mostly I get is stupid answers. And so I have to press it and press it and press it and press it. And as I press it and press it and press it, press it, something real happens. And something real is I don't know. And then the point is, let's find out. And then I engage them in the process. If you had a dream, what would it be? If you had a great result, you're passionately determined to produce, what would it be? And as I begin that process, Steve, something happens.
Yeah, that's huge. The why is huge. I agree with you. That's the biggest one. Well, that's awesome. So your why is to transform small business and the economy and the world through it, or something like that. I'm paraphrasing, and you're still at it, which is fantastic. And you have developed new programs, the Dreaming Room, and the transformation and the vertical books. So if you'd like to learn more, well, I assume you guys have all read The E-Myth Revisited. If you haven't, then go to Amazon right now as soon as the podcast is over and download it and read it. This is essential stuff. And then check out the Dreaming Room. So on the 25th, there's going to be a webinar. Now, I don't know if we can come out with this podcast before the 25th. I will try, but I probably it's going to be really hard to do. So is there another date where people can kind of engage with this concept of the dreaming
Well,
room?
it'll be recorded, Steve.
It will be recorded. Okay.
Yeah, so I'll have Amethyst send you the recording.
Okay.
At the same time, I'm going to have her send you the link, and you can publish the link for all of your listeners for our webinar on the 25th. Okay?
Wonderful. So please check out the show notes to this episode for the link, and you can watch. By that time, it's going to be a recorded webinar. Do check it out, and you can reach out to Michael. This is how I did it. Reached out through LinkedIn. He's on LinkedIn. You cannot miss his white hat there. Michael, thank you very much for doing all that, for starting the movement, working on a business. Now 100 million entrepreneurs are working on the business, trying to make it better. And now we have to all start dreaming about our business as well, right? So that's going to be
my delight, Steve. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Michael. And thanks for listening. Don't forget to like and review us and follow us, because now we have Michael Gerber, and who knows where we end up. Thanks for coming, and thanks for listening.